Right, good evening. Let's talk about the Lord's votes that happened last night and why they were so important. So there's two key votes to talk about. The first of which was the vote that secured that no deal Brexit was not a likelihood by a long way. And then the second vote that I want to talk about was brought by a Lib Dem peer, and that was on the people's vote, and that one lost. But let's go through why these were so important. Essentially, the first vote that passed 335 to 244, including 19 Tory peers that supported it, basically says that should Theresa May's Brexit deal get rejected by the Parliament, then in that case, it is not up to the government to decide by themselves what happened next, but rather the Parliament as a whole gets to decide. Now, the reason why this is so important is because as things stood, back in December, there had been a vote on Amendment 7 in the Commons itself, which was all about a meaningful vote, guaranteeing that the government can get any deal they liked. They would have to check it via Parliament. And that was the meaningful vote deal back in December 2017 that passed by just 4 votes. But that means that probably this autumn, when the deal comes back, there's going to be a vote on it. Now, here's the thing. What happens if that deal isn't passed by Parliament? This is something that Keir Starmer has been highlighting for quite a while, because the government has been saying, well, if you don't pass the deal, then we'll just come out without a deal. We'll be in the no-deal scenario. And that may suit a few hardcore Tory Brexiteers that are prepared to see the whole thing crash and burn. But as far as the vast majority of Parliament are concerned, that isn't acceptable. So this is the equivalent of putting a gun to Parliament's head and say, choose wisely, choose the deal or we blow the nation's brains out. So what was needed was a backup in case the Parliament rejected the deal, then the Parliament could retain control. And that is exactly what the amendment in the House of Lords passed last night achieved. It says, in the event of the Parliament rejecting Theresa May's deal, then this amendment says it then goes back to the Parliament itself to instruct the government as to what the next steps are. And in all of that playing field of exotic chaotica, there could be sending the government back to renegotiate, there could be cancelling Article 50, there could be throwing it to a people's vote, all kinds of things could happen there. But the Parliament controls, and that's the key thing. Now, what's the government going to do about this? Because this is only in the House of Lords. It now goes to the Commons. The government have said they are disappointed and they'll provide a robust response, but they haven't said that they're going to overturn it, because they are clearly concerned at this stage that that then might carry through in the Commons itself. There may be enough Tory rebels that would also say in the Commons, you know what, we're going to keep this amendment, and that means that all of this is, as I said before, we have a meaningful vote, the deal can be rejected, and then Parliament can seize the reins again and determine what happens from there. That's that one. So this is a key piece of legislation, and it fills in a lot of gaps and provides a lot of opportunities for our parliamentary sovereignty to act like a representative democracy should. And of course, a lot of the Brexiteers are going nuts and they're saying this is anti-democratic, it's against the will of the people. It's not. It's reaffirming our parliamentary sovereignty rather than some Jacob Rees-Moggian theocracy. But of course, they sense the threat that down this pathway, there are options for our representative democracy in Parliament to ultimately reject Brexit or to open up for the public to reject Brexit. So that's why last night was absolutely key. It opens that channel, it opens that route, it opens those possibilities. Now, the other vote that isn't being talked so much about is that there was also an amendment to have a people's vote. Now, Scientists for EU and Healthier In are part of the People's Vote campaign alongside European Movement and Open Britain and Infax and so forth and so on. So this was something tabled by the Lib Dems, and it didn't pass. It lost 260 to 202. And On this particular one, Labour had decided to abstain from the vote. So you will have seen Lib Dem emails sort of come out today saying Labour's pro-Brexit, they weren't prepared to give us a people's vote and so forth and so on. To be more nuanced about this and to be fair, it wouldn't have been good if that had passed at this stage, because then that amendment would have gone back to the Commons to vote on, and at this stage we're not sure that it would pass through the Commons, and if it'd been rejected in the Commons, then it's very, very hard to bring back in a different form. So if it came back to the Commons and was rejected, well, our whole march on the 23rd of June asking for a people's vote would have been pointless and would have to be reshaped into something else. So it's kind of a relief that that didn't pass, because the timing wasn't quite right yet. The people's vote thing is something that we're building. We need to have the public consensus on it that builds up like a crescendo, so that as there's more crunch time happening on all the key issues around Ireland, customs union, single market, citizens' rights, Euratom, all the other frameworks that we want to be part of, as all that comes to crunch point, then we want the crescendo demanding the people's vote to say, look at what we're being given as a deal. This isn't what anyone asked for, and given all the new information, it really, really should be checked by the people that enabled the whole thing in the first place. So, all in all, gotta say, yesterday was a good day. Tomorrow there is going to be another vote in the Lords on an amendment regarding Northern Ireland and the Irish border. So if you are in London and you have the time and capacity, do get down to the House of Parliament and Lords. Opposite the Lords, Sodom, Stand of Defiance, European Movement are out there day in, day out. And we can see from the MPs and the Lords that there's a good two-way dynamic there. They come and they chat to us, and we give them sustenance in terms of just being there. So it's important to get down there and show your support. This is the last big one tomorrow, the one on the Northern Irish border, and then the Lords have just given Parliament a whole load of amendments to really chew over. Amendments which we think are very, very likely to stick in the Commons, because a lot of these Conservative peers in particular, who are very well respected within the Conservative Party, that is going to have influence on those Conservative rebels as they line up with Labour position and SNP and Greens and Lib Dems and Plaid and all of that set. So that's what we're looking at. There's your summary. I hope it was helpful.